Welcome to my next video in this series on how to format a book in Microsoft Word. Let me just move this bit over a little. So I've gone through removing extra spacing and tabs. This is just something that's important when you get a manuscript from someone else or if you've set up all the spacing the wrong way. So I'm going to cross that out. And now we're going to talk more about setting heading and paragraph styles. This is really important. I actually usually do this before I start writing my book because then I know it's all kind of done. And I was saying I'm using Microsoft Word 2016 now, which is a little bit different from the earlier versions of Word, and there were some features I really liked from the earlier versions. But I have set up one new style already, which I've just called paragraph. So once you set up all your styles, then it should be pretty easy to make changes. Okay, so I've found they've just moved stuff. They used to be able to right-click, and there was a style here, and you could just update the style, which I realized they must still have because that's a really important feature. And I've just found it if you highlight any changes you've made. Like, for example, I'm going to want to change this font to a better font. I'm going to use Garamond Premiere Pro, which is a nice font. It's going to show me a lot of these blue things. I'll probably turn that off in the next video because I know it can be distracting to show all this blue. But I've changed this paragraph, and I want everything that I've done and set up to match this new change that I've made. So I used to be able to right-click. In older versions of Word, you can right-click and you can go to Styles and you can say Update to Match Selection. In this version of Word 2016, you have to go up to the paragraph style and right-click it here, and then you can do Update Paragraph to Match Selection. I think that's going to work. So that worked. So now the whole document, everything that I've used with this paragraph style, matches that change that I've made. So that's really important because maybe later on I decide I want a little bit more spacing, or for example, right now I actually have to justify this text. So I'm going to go up here to justify, and then I want everything justified, so I'm going to go up here to paragraph style. If I click on it, it's just going to set back to the old style. So I need to make the change that I want and then right click up here and go update paragraph to match selection. So that's a feature in 2016. In older versions of Word, you can watch some of my older videos on book formatting. You'll just go to right click actually in the paragraph and you'll see that style and update paragraph to match selection. So I have this here. This is one paragraph style. This is for the whole book. This is mostly fine. This is how I'm going to set it up. I've already set up my margins and my gutters. One thing I do need to do though, almost always the first paragraph of a chapter is going to not have an indent. So I'm going to go up here to line space options. I'm going to get rid of this indent. Click OK. And then I'm going to save this as a new style. So if I want to do it this way, I can right click it here. I'll go up here to styles and I'll say create a style. I think in the older version of Microsoft Word, you could right-click it and go to Styles and go to Save as a new style. So it's a little bit different. But here I'm just going to go to Styles and I'm going to create a style that is first paragraph. There is no, even with my free formats, this stuff is already set up, but you still have to select the right text. So like this is one chapter. If I go down to another chapter, this is the header subtitle. I would have to highlight this first paragraph and click that first paragraph style. And I'm going to have to do that for everything. So I'm going to have to set up new styles for the chapter and the subtitles and everything else. And I'll do that now because I'm going to do that in this section. So I'm still in the setting heading and paragraph styles. Okay, and then we'll go on to the next video. So what I need to do, this is actually the title page. So I'm going to leave that till the end. I really need to set this as a different style because what happens if I just change all of the paragraph style or something, this would keep changing. So I'll usually leave this to the very end. But this is going to be one of my headers. This is preface. So I can go ahead and pick out a style for that. Maybe I'll just make it really big. One thing I like to do on my headers, you could go up to this tab up here to change whether or not it's uppercase or lowercase. So I'm going to uppercase the whole thing, and I'm actually going to go to font and advanced and spacing, and I'll go to expanded spacing and increase this. So this can look really nice, maybe not necessarily for a chapter title. Often I'll do this for my subtitles, but for now I'm going to right click, go to styles, create a style, and go to heading 1. Actually, let me see if this works. This may not actually work. Okay, so the reason this didn't work, and that you don't want to actually create a new heading style, heading 1 style, is because Microsoft Word already has some headings built in. And if you use the headings that are built in, it'll show up in the navigation pane, which I have open already. If you don't have the navigation pane open, you go to View and make sure you've clicked this, which is the navigation pane. That's important because you'll be able to see all of the outline of your book, and you'll even be able to move around sections and chapters of your book, which is a feature of Microsoft Word most people don't know is there. A lot of people like Scrivener because of that feature. I'll show you once I've set this up. So instead of setting up a new style and saving it as heading 1, I actually just need to highlight this, and maybe I can delete this style, remove from style gallery. I'm going to just go like this. I'm going to highlight heading 1, and because I've used the word heading 1 style, which is already built in, now it shows up here in my navigation pane. But I don't like this style, so I'm going to change it how I want. I'll change it to black. I'll make it larger. This is actually not a terrible font. You generally want 1 or 2 fonts in your document. You want a serif font. I don't think I have a section on just fonts, so I'll talk a bit about it now. I have actually a big list on DIYbookformats.com of the best free and paid recommended fonts, but you generally want a simple serif font for the body, and I think it's often really nice to pair a serif font for the headers. So I'll usually do something like Bebas New, which is a font I like a lot. It doesn't space very well. You'll see the kerning. One of the problems with Microsoft Word is it's not great for spacing. So the kerning means K-E-R-N is a space between the letters. And most of this looks fine, but in certain cases, like between the F and the A, because of the way those letters are built, there's too much spacing between the letters. That's not very easy to fix in Microsoft Word. I could play with it a lot if I went to expanded and I made this bigger. It looks kind of fine. Then I could just highlight this one letter and go back here and make it a little bit smaller. So you can kind of control the kerning on letters. That didn't work too well. You'd kind of have to keep playing with it. You may need to do that in some cases. I wouldn't worry about it in the body text, but on headers, it's kind of important. So by doing it that way, it kind of works. I'm going to center this, and now this time I'm going to go up here to the heading 1 style, and I'm going to right click on it, and I'll update heading 1 to match selection. So now this is my header style, and that's what it looks like. So now I can scroll down to the next chapter, and I can just highlight this chapter 1, and I'll click this heading style, and then it shows up here. So that's something I'll want to, you want to figure out your heading style before. Well, it doesn't really matter actually, because you can change this all really easily. So I could just pick anything. I could even just use the default word setting, and I could scroll down. And the nice thing is that once you have this set up, it makes it really easy for you to get around your document. So once this is set up, I don't need to scroll down through my document every time, because I'll be able to just go over here and click on the different headings to get to the different part of the document. This is not a full book. I think I only have, I don't know, 5 chapters or something anyway, so I'll continue to finish this really quickly. Chapter 5. I think that's probably all I have. There might be an epilogue or conclusion. Most of my book formatting templates have some after matter, so what you put in the back. This is actually the copyright page that I'm going to put in the front later. I just put it there for now, so I have it handy. So now I've basically gone through and set these up. One thing to be aware of is that when you convert this to, when you make a table of contents, if you want a table of contents, nonfiction usually have them. Fiction novels usually don't have a table of contents, but if you do set one up and these are all uppercase like this, that's going to show up in your table of contents also. And when you convert this to ebook, your navigation or your table of contents, when you convert a Word document to ebook, you get something that looks like this. You don't actually need a table of contents because ebook has its own navigational system, but you are going to see these things. So if these are all uppercase, that's how it's going to look in your navigation for your ebooks and for your table of contents, which may not be what you want. And there's not a great way to fix this, although I think, let me try. Yeah, because in this case, Bebas New, which is a font that I like, actually is all uppercase. That means that you can set these to how you want it to appear. Whoops, it's not working. So over here it looks like this because actually this is uppercase and lowercase, but because this particular font is all uppercase anyway, it's going to display like this here and then this over here. I think this looks nicer not to be in all caps, so I'll usually try not to have this in all caps. But then you could also do something like, I could just put a big 1 here. We'll talk more about this later when we get into like styles, but I might just want to have like one massive number 1 in all of these. And now see how easy it is, whoops, for me to go through and make changes, because I can just click over there and it goes right to the right space, which is one of the big advantages of having chapters. So I might do something like that. And then I would also want to set something up for the subtitle. So I'm going to go to, actually before I skip ahead, I did make this one a lot larger. So I'm going to go up here again and right click and update heading 1 to make sure that these are all larger too, so that they all match. Then I'm going to go through and highlight my subtitles. And I'm going to pick subtitle 2. In this case, it depends, like it totally depends on how you don't want to be too complicated. The easy thing to get wrong is to want to design your ebook and put in a lot of special fonts and decorations and everything. It's really got to match the book cover, so you want to make sure your fonts match the book cover. If you have a well-designed book cover, it's going to match the genre, so your chapter fonts and subtitle fonts will basically match your book cover. Don't worry about the body fonts, but your book cover generally is going to have one fancy font that matches. By fancy, I just mean a little bit decorative, or it matches the style of the genre. So like this particular font might be really good for a nonfiction business book, or a dystopian or sci-fi, because it's a big blocky text. But if you were writing something like a romance and you had a script font, you would want something, probably not the number, but you might want something like that. I don't know. That's not a great, that would be more for an erotica. There's rules to which kind of fonts you want for different kinds of books, but you want something that matches your cover and your genre, and you don't want it to be too distracting or too decorative. So really keep it simple. I'm just going to undo this and go back. You want to keep it pretty simple. It's better to be clean and simple than to be too complicated. But in this case, I'm just going to, for my subheaders, I usually like them to look, let's see, something like this maybe. I'm going to go here again. I'm not narrating everything I'm doing, but I just went up here to the fonts. In the fonts panel, if you click this little, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little arrow button in the corner. That's the same for the paragraph style. That kind of gives you all the options. Otherwise, you have a few options here, but you don't get to see all the options. So you can click this to kind of see the rest of the panel. So I'm going there to go to expanded. I can make this a lot bigger. It's nice. It just gives a lot more space. It kind of usually makes it a little cleaner. And I'm going to change the color. And I might actually do something like make it gray so it's not black, so it stands out a little bit better. Let me see what else we're talking about in this. So we've set the heading and the paragraph styles. That's basically what I've done. I'll do one more thing because it's important. So here you can see I have the chapter and then I have the subtitle. So if I had subheadings, like if this was a nonfiction book and I had a lot of smaller sections, you might also want to, this is pretty common to have section breaks in your book in both fiction and nonfiction. So I'll show you two quick things. In this one, whoops, I want to undo that. And I want to stop automatically creating border lines. So this is just a divider. So I would want to center that, and then I might pick a new style just for this. So I might pick something like, let's see, styles, create a style, divider. So that works pretty well. The other thing that I could just do that's easy, the main thing with the divider is if you don't want to use the regular paragraph style, because the regular paragraph style, oops, excuse me, if I go to the regular paragraph style, it has that indent. So if I center the section break, it's actually not going to be centered because it has the indent. So that's why you want to set up a new style for the divider, or you could use first paragraph, which doesn't have an indent, and then center it, but you'll probably want to style this a bit anyway. You might want to make it a little bit bigger. You might want to add some space. Whoops, I'm going to stop automatically creating bulleted lists. I might want to do something like that for the divider. And then I want to be a little bit careful about the spacing, but generally it's going to look like that. I might want to add a little bit more spacing after it looks like there's less spacing under here, so I could do something like, oops, hold on, so I need to go back because I had set this up. So go to divider, make this a little bit larger, and then I'll go up here and right click and update divider to match selections. That's what my divider style is going to look like. So now I could go through and find all the dividers and add that style pretty quickly. Generally, after a section break, it will be a non-indented paragraph. So I just highlight this and I go to first paragraph, and that's done. And the other thing you might see, you might have another smaller subtitle which could look just the same as your regular subtitle. Let me go up here to heading 2. Oops. So it looks like up here I didn't, when I did this, I needed to right click up here and update heading 2 to match selection, which I hadn't done yet. So it's important to do that until I see this change. That way when I make anything else like this, I have subtitle 2, that's what it looks like. However, this doesn't look very good here. It's going to look different from this up here. So this one I might want to style differently. I might just do something simple. I'm going to remove this spacing a lot. And I'm going to do all caps. And then I'm actually going to change to open sans. This might not work for, right now I'm throwing a lot of different styles in here. It's probably too much. So you want to really make it clean and make sure you're using about the same fonts and styles and everything. But my point was, for a nonfiction book, you often have section dividers throughout the copy. So I would do something like this, but then I would need to add a little bit of space. So line spacing options, I'll add some space after, maybe like that. And generally, like I said, after a section break, this is non-indented, so I'll just go up here again and click on first paragraph, which is my non-indented style. So it looks like this. And if I wanted, I could add a little bit more space on top of this too. A little bit more. And then this is actually a new style, so I'm going to have to right click, go to styles, and create a style. And I'll say subheading. This one, Actually, like I said before, if I do it this way, this isn't going to show up in my table of contents. So if you do want to keep track of everything, what I really should have done is use another one of the built-in word styles like heading 3. So I'll just set that up again really quickly. And I'll right click up here and update heading 3 to match selection. This will take some figuring out as you figure out your styles. You don't want to play with it too much. Once you've set things, you can change all these styles later. So now, like anytime I want to make any changes to this or this, I can just make the change and go up and right click and update, and it's just going to work through the whole book. So once you've set it up, you can kind of leave it. But for right now, I'll finish this part, which is adding a little bit of spacing. Then I'll go up here and right click and update. And often you could also have, after a section break, sometimes some people will do all caps like this, which can look pretty good, especially I think if you have something where it's just a section break and it's just, you just use the 3 stars. I think sometimes doing something like italics and bold, or doing it in all caps, that can look good. It kind of shows that you're starting from a new position. This isn't something that you can set throughout the whole book. You could set it up as a style, but I don't think the uppercase actually saves as a style. So this is something you might need to do manually. And you'd usually want the first page to be set up where the first sentence is different too. So you could use bold, or you could use uppercase, or something like that. Those are some things we'll play with more later. We're going to do some more advanced formatting stuff. One last thing I need to make in this video, which is kind of getting pretty long now. You want spacing, like this is the first page of a new paragraph, but there's not enough space here. So I need to highlight this chapter 1, and I need to go to line spacing options. I need to add a lot of space before. Aha, okay, hold on. Let me see what else is next. I'm going to have to show you adding section breaks. It's hard to kind of do everything at once, but the problem is if I add spacing here, which I really need to do, it's not going to show up because I haven't said that this is a new space yet. So it's not showing all the space. To add a section break, I need to go up here to the last section, and I go to Layout and Breaks, and I go to Next Page. So I'm inserting a section break to start a new section break on the next page. When I do that, this is now a new page, so that space that I just set up, you can see it. And then I want to make sure I delete, right now there's an extra sentence up here where my cursor goes. I want to delete that so there's no extra spaces, and this is just how it looks. So in every chapter, there's always going to be this much space. But what you're going to have to do is add that section break on every section to show the space. But I'll show you just this one page. What you're trying to do, and I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole thing. On your first page of a new chapter, you want the body text to show up about halfway down the page. So I'm going to also go to, this part kind of looks okay. I'm going to add some more spacing after this style. Oops, before I do that, I forgot again to right click up here and update heading 1 to match. So I need to make sure I do that. And then I'm gonna select this subtitle. I'm gonna add some spacing, line space options after the subtitle to push that body text down. So it looks kind of like that. I might add a little bit more above that. This is stuff you'll kind of have to play around with and figure out. I'll add a little bit more spacing to this one. Okay, so now this looks like a pretty clean first page of a paragraph, of a new chapter. The body text is about halfway down. So real quick, I'm just going to go back to my styles again and make sure I right click and update heading 2. This is just in Microsoft 2016. Like I said before, you used to be able to right click and go to styles, and you used to be able to update to match the style right there, but you can't do that in 2016, so you have to do it up here in this menu, which is kind of not my favorite thing. But anyway, this pretty much looks good. That's how you have to set up your styles for headings, subtitles, and your body text, your first paragraph text, and your basic body text. So now I could just go through, I could set this up really quickly just by clicking on the heading to style. This one doesn't have a subtitle. I'm just going to grab that and copy and paste it in. And then the reason that this all looks not so great is because I haven't made those section breaks yet like I have with the first page, but I'm going to talk more about that in the next video. So I'll stop this video here. Thanks, bye-bye.